Hello everyone, this is Suneve, and I'm coming to you with Experiment, a Jeff the Killer X-Reader by ThePerfectBlur. We're starting off with Chapter 46. I'm so glad you're alive. I was so scared. What if I couldn't bring you back? What would I do? My voice starts to sound shaky as I began to make myself sad and panic, thinking about the worst case scenarios of what might have happened. You don't have to worry about that. I'm alive and so are you. He smiled, standing to his feet, to which I had to help him up. He was still a bit weak, but he was recovering fast. Now, time to go have a word with Slender. He begins to storm off, but soon stops once he realizes I wasn't following him. Turning around to face me, he tilts his head, giving a confused look. Wyan, you coming? He asks, but I don't reply with words. I felt too scared to, so instead I just shake my head, lowering it as I take a few steps back. Jeff sighs, walking over to me, placing his hands on my shoulders. Wyan, we can defeat him if we work together. It'll be over before you know it, and then we can finally be free together. The idea of living a free life with Jeff made me happy and instantly putting a smile on my face. Subject 6126. A distant voice announces. It became hard to focus suddenly, and everything felt dizzy. I started hearing voices that sounded familiar, but I couldn't remember, as if to be a memory locked away. Wyan, hey, Wyan. Welcome to our hospital, Wyan. I'm sure you'll be very comfortable here. A doctor smiles widely as he's surrounded by my worrying parents and nurses. I had just killed my teacher today, and my parents could no longer handle me, so they're abandoning me here. Don't worry, Mr. and Mrs. Camore. We have a very high satisfaction rate, and Wyan will be properly looked after. He speaks directly at my parents, trying to reassure them, to which they take a few calming breaths and nods, looking down at me before turning to leave the room. Mom, Dad, where are you going? I call after them. They give me a quick glance, but turn back and rush for the door. Mom, Dad, where are you going? Mom, Dad! I scream from behind the door as they shut it from behind them, locking it. I could hear their sobs from behind the door, but that was soon drowned out by my loud screaming and banging as I pound my fists and feet against the door. Hours had passed, and my mother or father still hadn't returned to come get me. By this point, I was sat on the floor in the corner, back against a wall with my feet against my chest. Head resting on my knees as tears trickled down my cheeks. Suddenly the door opens. I quickly raise my head and gasp in the hope to see my parents, but it wasn't. It was a doctor. He enters the room alone, shutting the door before walking over to me and crouching down on my level as I remained on the floor. No need to be sad. You'll be happy here, he smiles sweetly, trying to calm my nerves and make me feel less scared. When can I go home? I want to see my mom. The doctor shakes his head, making a tutting sound with his tongue. This is your home now. You don't need your mommy anymore, right? You'll be brave, you'll cooperate, and be a good subject, right? No, I was confused. What did he mean? I'm not a subject. I'm just a girl. The doctor's smile drops to an angry sneer as he grabs the collar of my shirt, standing to his feet, holding me threateningly. Freaks like you no longer have identities. You will be known as Subject 6126. You will not talk back, and you will do as you're told. Do you understand me? I instantly burst into tears, and what had happened to be the nice doctor who greeted me and my parents? Why was he being so mean? Suddenly, the palm of his hand comes crashing down, slapping hard against my face as he strikes me harshly. I said, do you understand? I couldn't help but scream, a 7-year-old child being hit by a 40-year-old man at full force, as if to hit someone his own age. It would be sure to leave a bruise, but he soon grows impatient, throwing me to the ground and storming out of the room. I scurry to a corner, curling up as tight as I can to comfort myself. Hello? Hey, can you hear me? A soft female voice suddenly whispers through the vent. Wyan, I snap back to reality to find myself vigorously shaken by Jeff as he grabs my shoulders, pushing me back and forth, stopping once he realizes I had snapped out of it. I'm sorry, Jeff, but there's something I have to do first. Chapter 47. Jeff gives me a confused look as he squeezes my shoulders a little. What do you mean? Don't you want to get revenge on Slender for kicking you out and for lying about you allowing to live here? He seems quite agitated, and I could understand why. He was right. I didn't want revenge on Slender, but I can only do one thing at a time. Of course I do, but I have my own revenge to take care of first. What are you talking about? You already took revenge on your parents. I remember that day well. You kicked me in the balls. He snarls, grinding his teeth a little as he brings up the actions of that day where I hurt him. No, I know, but it's a what? Come on, Wyan. If we don't do it now, he'll realize what I'm doing and that you're not dead. I couldn't help but sigh. He wasn't listening at all. Looking down, I take a step back, moving my shoulders away so Jeff's hands slip off and let me go. To which he gives a shocked expression. Wyan, if you want to get revenge on Slender, then go ahead, but I have to do this. It's important to me, and if you don't want to help me, I understand. I slowly look up at Jeff and match his gaze. He watches me for a few seconds before turning his head to look in the direction of the mansion, but he soon saw eyes turning back to me. Oh, I'll help you, Ian. I couldn't help but smile as a small tear trickles down my cheek. Thank you, Jeff. But as soon as we're done, we're coming back to kick the shit out of Slender. Deal. I squeal as I pounce on him to hug him, expecting him to catch me, but instead he groans, falling onto his back with me falling on top of him. I'm still sore, you know. I may look wound-free, but the pain is still there. He snaps like a moody child. I couldn't help but giggle at his moodiness, though I couldn't stop myself from smiling as I watched Jeff's features, remembering him as that cute little boy in my class from when I was just 7 years old, and here he is now, all these years. What are you smiling at? He sneers in an angry, sarcastic manner. He hated being stared at now, I'm guessing, but that just made me chuckle. Just thinking back to how you were when we were 7, your cute, innocent smile and sweet eyes. You know, they say, if you click with someone when you're young, you're more likely to be with them when you're older. Jeff smiles softly as his hand raises to smooth my cheek, cupping the left side of my face and gently stroking my scars. Is that so? I sigh a happy breath, smiling as I nuzzle my face close to Jeff's hand, raising mine to cover his and twining our fingers together. Jeff slowly sits up, laying on his free elbow as his hand draws me in closer, pressing a soft, warm, and tender kiss on my lips. It's so easy to forget what Jeff's kisses feel like because of the appearance of his mouth. The cuts make it seem like they would be weird or uncomfortable, but they're not. Far from it. When we kiss, I never want it to end. Sadly, he slowly pulls away and gazes into my eyes, but his calm expression soon turns to a sly, evil, and devious one. Let's go get some revenge. His voice was so deep and stern, and it sounded so cold and sharp, and it made my adrenaline rush at the excitement of what I was about to do. Chapter 48. As Jeff and I make our way to the hospital, hiding within the shadows as we stalk along the streets, we quietly try to think of a plan, to which we soon came up with an idea. I was soaked in Jeff's blood from when he died as I tried to bring him back, which was luckily successful. That meant I could use the blood to my advantage. How can you be sure that doctor still works here? Jeff questions as the hospital comes into view, sneaking around the back of the building to wait. I don't. I just have to hope he's still here. I sigh, peering around the corner to check no one was around to listen to us. Do you even know the doctor's name? He asks. I slowly turn to face him, squinting my eyes and frowning my brows, glaring angrily. Does he think I would go through all that pain and torture to not know the doctor's name? Manning. Dr. Otis Lee Manning. I growl, turning around sharply and making my way to the entrance. I hear Jeff call my name from behind me, but I ignore him. I was ready for this, and nothing was going to stop me now. Nurse's POV. Oh, come on, where are you? I mumble as I desperately try and find the doctor. There was an emergency in the ICU that he needed to attend to, and finally I find him standing at the receptionist's desk signing some papers. There you are, Dr. Manning. You're needed in the ICU quickly. The patient has gone into cardiac arrest. He instantly marches off, not giving it a second thought, and he was such a good doctor, good at his job, passionate about his work. Somebody help me. Just as I was about to leave the reception, a voice screams out for help as a girl covered in blood stumbles through the hospital doors. Someone, please, help me. She screams as she falls to the floor, tripping over her own feet, but instantly tries to scramble up in panic. I rush over to her almost instantly. What happened? Please, he's coming to kill me. Helping her to her feet and moving her away from the door, I call to the security standing behind the reception desk. Guard that door, guard that door, let nobody through. I order as I continue to help the injured girl, taking her down the hallway to find an empty room where I can check her over, asking as many questions as possible along the way, but she kept screaming the same thing no matter what I asked. Someone was trying to kill her. I eventually find a room and manage to calm her down so I could talk to her properly. Okay, sweetheart, take deep breaths slowly, in and out. What's your name? I ask her calmly in a soft tone as I begin to check her over, checking her heart rate with my stethoscope, but also checking her eye reflexes to light and making sure she was still responsive. Olivia Winters. People call me Ollie. Her face was full of fear. I can't imagine what she must have been through. I give a reassuring nod as I crouch down in front of her, helping her remove her blood-stained clothes so she could put on a hospital gown. Okay, Ollie, can you tell me what happened? She was hesitant at first, stuttering and mumbling and trying to find the right words to use. Well, I was walking my dog in the woods like I always do, but this time she ran off, barking loudly as if to be chasing something. She was soon out of sight, and I couldn't see her at all. I could only hear her barking. And then suddenly she cried out in pain, and I was worried. I called out for her, but suddenly this man appeared, walking towards me, holding her decapitated head in his hand. She stops and instantly bursts out crying, slamming her face into her palms as she sobs. The poor girl, her dog died, and she nearly lost her life, too. Once she was in the gown, I began to do a full body check, cleaning any small wounds and seeing if any needed stitches. Although as I searched up and down her legs, arms, and stomach and chest, and back and neck, I realized she had no wounds at all. Her skin was completely clear, and there were just a few patches where the blood had soaked through her clothes and dried on her skin. Strange, I mumble, as I grab a wet cloth to dab the smeared blood off of her face. Lift up for me, dear, I ask as her head remains in her hands. She sniffs and pauses a little before finally lowering her hands and raising her head, looking at me with sorrow-filled eyes. As I begin to feel it wipe out the blood, I notice her eyes were dry, but if she had just been crying, they would be red and wet, especially her eyelashes. Shaking my head and sighing, brushing off any odd thoughts about it, I continued to work on helping her. However, the moment all the blood on her face was gone, I instantly dropped the wet cloth and gasped. The left side of her face was scarred, but not just any old scars. Scars I remember. Her sad and fearful expression suddenly changes to an evil, sly grin. You! That is the end of those chapters. Thank you guys for waiting for all that. The chapter after that is chapter 49, and hopefully I'll be able to not have anything crazy happen tomorrow so I can get these out for you in time. I know it's late. I'm so sorry. You guys have a lovely day, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye!